Have you heard of the most evil woman in history? Nope, not Hillary Clinton. Not her. Empress Wu Zetian stands out as one of the most ruthless and psychotic rulers in history. And what a way to gain the emperor's favor. Welcome to the channel. Let's start off with her humble beginnings. Her father, Wu Shifan, held a prestigious but low-paying government position. When she was 14, Wu Zetian married into the Li clan, a prominent family whose son, Li Jie, would become Emperor Taizong of the Tang dynasty. Empress Wu, initially hesitant to openly challenge the authority of Emperor Ge, gradually assumed greater influence over the empire's affairs. Her determination to secure absolute power manifested in the brutal elimination of her rivals. For instance, the crown princess, whom she saw as a threat, Metagrusamend, Wu ordered her locked in a palace, where attendants were commanded to deny her food and water until she died of starvation. Officials were instructed to include their wives and children in their reports, an unusual practice intended to ensure transparency and discourage deceit. Victims were first stripped, tied up, and then sewn up in a leather bag along with pigs, dogs, and other animals. The bag would then be untied at both ends to allow the victim to crawl out. However, they were still attached to the bag by their genitalia. As the victim struggled to free themselves from the bag, they would be exposed to various stimuli like bright lights and loud noises. In one instance, she ordered a group of Buddhist monks to be thrown into a blazing pit, mocking their desperate pleas for mercy and their prayers to be spared. She took pleasure in experimenting with various ways to torment her victims, occasionally observing them from hidden spots to gauge their reactions. In one case, she had a young girl buried alive, only removing the lid of the coffin to check on her periodically. If the victim survived longer than expected, Wu would have them put to death. She was responsible for exterminating entire aristocratic families who were considered threats to her power. She kept a collection of ferocious beasts, including tigers, wolves, bears, and feral dogs, which she unleashed on her captives. She became convinced that she was a living goddess destined to reign forever. In her final years, she surrounded herself with mystics and fortune-tellers, who indulged her delusion. She reportedly engaged in bizarre rituals and lavished gifts upon those who flattered her ego. One particularly disturbing ritual involved having her young male lovers put to death in front of her and then drinking their blood, believing it would grant her eternal youth. These creatures were often starved to intensify their predatory instincts, making the executions more brutal and terrifying. Wu personally enjoyed watching these executions, finding sadistic pleasure in the sight of humans being torn apart by animals. It was a grotesque spectacle designed to instill terror and obedience among her subjects. She also used her vast network of informants to turn members of the nobility against each other. Wu's reign saw the deaths of countless individuals who fell victim to her suspicion and paranoia. Many were put to death on the mere suspicion of disloyalty or plotting against her. Another time, she had a woman doused with hot oil, but instead of immediately killing her, she kept pouring oil on her for several days, prolonging the agony. Some victims died instantly from exhaustion or fright, while others endured hours of agony before succumbing. Others died of starvation or dehydration, or they were left to die of exposure, either from extreme heat or cold. During her rule, the empire reached its territorial zenith, stretching from the Korean peninsula in the east to Afghanistan in the west. Following her removal from power, she spent her remaining days in a luxurious residence where she continued to receive a substantial income. However, she was not permitted to engage in any political activities. Empress Wu died in 705 at the age of 82, possibly due to mercury poisoning resulting from her pursuit of immortality. Throughout her life, she had a proclivity for consuming mercury-based tonics and creams, a habit that ultimately proved fatal. She promoted talented officials based on merit rather than social status, a progressive approach that contributed to the empire's stability and prosperity. However, this progressive outlook was juxtaposed with her appalling acts of cruelty. Empress Wu's regime was characterized by a pervasive sense of paranoia. She feared not only external threats, but also imagined ones. As her paranoia intensified, so did her persecution of potential or perceived enemies. Her closest relatives weren't safe. For instance, in 698, she executed her son, Li Dan, after accusing him of conspiring with her daughter, Princess Taiping, to usurp the throne. Even her cousin, Duke of Yuyang, wasn't spared. After he voiced concerns about Wu's growing influence, she had him demoted and banished to a remote region. She prohibited widow remarriage and implemented harsh penalties for those who violated this decree. Those caught violating the law were killed, with the wife being burned alive alongside her deceased husband's corpse. This served as a grim reminder to her subjects of the consequences of disobedience. There, she cut off his supply of food, forcing him to eat snakes and rats. Wu Zetian devised the method of boiling condemned criminals alive in colossal bronze cauldrons filled with water. In a twisted display of theatricality, she sometimes invited courtiers to watch as the condemned writhed in agony before succumbing to their horrific demise. Later, she had him put to death, allegedly implicating him in a plot to assassinate her. After giving birth to 2 daughters, Wu Zetian entered the imperial court as a concubine, a position typically reserved for entertainers and mistresses. To add to the horror, she did not kill him in a quick or merciful manner. Now, you might be wondering, was she any better as the Empress than she was as the concubine? Well, the answer is a big fat no. Instead, she subjected him to excruciating torture before killing him. She employed a network of secret agents and informants who infiltrated homes and monasteries, reporting any suspicious activities or disloyal behavior. People became apprehensive about even engaging in casual conversation, fearing it might be misinterpreted as dissent. Wu established a system whereby local officials were required to report not only on major events, but also on trivial matters. If an official failed to report something significant, they were punished. Conversely, if they reported insignificant issues, they were rewarded. She had him sewn up in a leather bag, along with a few attendants who had been involved in his schemes, leaving them to die of starvation and suffocation. She quickly won over Emperor Taizong, who elevated her to the rank of Empress, but their relationship soured after the emperor's death in 649 AD, when his successor, Emperor Gaozong, took the throne. She cold-bloodedly murdered her own newborn daughter to frame the reigning Empress, Wang, setting in motion the first of many killings that would see her rivals suffer horrible deaths. While she did some good things for the country, including promoting talented officials regardless of social status, expanding the empire's borders, issuing a new coinage, and suppressing rebellions, the means by which she accomplished these things were nothing short of diabolical. She is unique in that she was the only female emperor of China. Li Yuanhao had held the title before her, but he was a man, and then came Li Xian, whom she deposed to become the sole ruler of China. In 655, she orchestrated the demise of her nemesis. Legend has it that one night she snuck into the sleeping quarters of Empress Wang and suffocated her with a pillow, in a cunning move to frame the crime on someone else. Wu Zetian removed the pillow and replaced it with a more obvious gag made of silk cloth. When the next morning came and Empress Wang was found dead, suspicion fell upon Shang Guanyi, a maid-servant who had been disliked by Empress Wang. Wu Zetian, having secured her ascension to the throne, ruthlessly eliminated potential threats to her power, sparing neither her own family nor her husband's relatives. In 665, she banished her own sister, Wu Zhao, for plotting against her. 4 years later, she executed her niece, Princess Anail, along with several members of Emperor Taizong's family, all accused of conspiring against her. Her reign, which lasted from 690 to 705 AD, was marked by unparalleled cruelty and psychological terror. Her rise to power began when she was a low-ranking concubine, who managed to work her way up to become the favorite of the aging Emperor Taizong. In today's video, we are going to look at the life and times of this evil queen, specifically how she was one of the most sadistic leaders of all time. Wu Zetian was born in 624 AD into a minor noble family in the Sui dynasty. Empress Wu, now relegated to a minor concubine, plotted revenge against her rival, Empress Wang. Now, if you think that was messed up, buckle up, because it gets worse. Empress Wu was so paranoid about her safety that she went as far as to kill her own son, Li Hongyi, who she suspected had been plotting against her. When Emperor Gaozong passed away in 688, Wu Zetian seized the opportunity to crown herself as the sole ruler of China, taking the title of Empress. Having achieved complete control, Empress Wu instituted horrifying measures to ensure obedience throughout the empire. She kept tabs on her officials and scrutinized their behavior. She introduced a novel form of capital punishment called the human swine. Empress Wu's regime extended beyond earthly punishments. She believed that those who defied her deserved punishment in the afterlife as well. But that was not enough for her. She unleashed another form of hell on earth by inventing the bronze cauldron. That's not it. She also delighted in throwing people into pits of fire, watching with amusement as they burned to death. But Wu's brutality was not indiscriminate. She exhibited a chilling preference for certain types of torture, particularly enjoying devising methods suitable for different age groups and physical conditions. While Wu Zishen's thirst for power and control knew no bounds, her reign also saw significant expansion of the Temse Empire. In 705, Wu Zishen's ministers conspired against her, exploiting her deteriorating mental state, and succeeded in deposing her. During her reign, Wu Zisha executed more than 100,000 people in systematic purges. One of the most disturbing aspects of her rule was her use of wild animals to execute prisoners. As Wu Zishan aged, her paranoia and delusions intensified, leading to a series of bizarre and terrifying events. What do you think of this demonic woman? Do let us know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.